Okay, here we go. Part 2 of Kyle testimony. Remember, we're still on direct. Direct is when you're getting friendly questions. The DA does direct on his witnesses. The defense does direct on their witnesses. Kyle is a witness for the defense, therefore defense is questioning. That is direct. All right, here we go. Sorry, also, I'm going to be eating here. It's 2:30 here. In between these two, I was uploading, went out, cut my grass, weed eated, ran back in here, so I just warmed me up some soup, and I'm going to be eating soup and drinking. So, sorry, but it's 2:30 here in Texas, and I haven't eaten yet. So, here we go.
As I'm walking down Sheridan.
Wow! The video was moved to private. What the hell happened? Holy shit, I got to try and find another source.
My plan is to get out.
Okay, I had to find it. I'm on ABC now because PBS just made their video private. Here we go.
Correct?
Yes.
And you had a fire extinguisher?
Yes.
And you had your medic?
My medical bag, yes.
And were you asking people about medic at that point?
I was asking people if they needed medical help as I was getting down there.
Did you receive any responses?
No, I didn't.
Describe your approach to car source number 3.
As I'm walking down Sheridan Road, I hear somebody scream, "Burn in hell," and I replied with friendly, to let them know, hey, I'm just here to help. I don't want any problems. I just want to put out the fires if there are any. I continue walking, and then I notice the Duramax. I notice a flame in the back seat of the Duramax, and I step towards the Duramax, and as I'm stepping forward, I believe his name is now Joshua Zeminski. He steps towards me with a pistol in his hand, and as I'm walking towards to put out the fire, I drop the fire extinguisher and I take a step back.
Okay. When you step back from Mr. Zeminski.
Now you can tell he's getting a little shaken up here. When you testify about critical life-saving events and you start recalling, all the emotions come back. Some people can smell, when we're interviewing cops and shootings, they can like smell very things that most people wouldn't. I smelt radiator fluid. I smelt, gas or oil, or they will say the strangest things because their senses are enhanced and they're recalling. So he's kind of actually, when he's telling his story, he's actually reliving this, and you can tell his emotions are getting a little, they're coming with the memories. I don't know if that's explained to the jury, but
Zeminski, what's your plan?
My plan is to get out of that situation and go back north down Sheridan Road to where the car source lot number 2 was.
And did you get back? Were you able to go in a northerly direction?
I wasn't.
Describe what happens.
Once I take that step back, I look over my shoulder, and Mr. Rosenbaum was now running from my right side, and I was cornered from in front of me with Mr. Zeminski, and there were there were 3 people right there.
see, I think he should probably say, can we take a minute for the witness to compose himself a little bit? Because, man, this is really difficult. And I'm sure there's going to be the Black Lives Matter idiots running around. Oh, man, he cried. He killed people. Now he cried. Dude, this is, man, I put too much crushed red pepper in here. Ooh, in case somebody wondering what I'm eating. It's some baked potato soup with some cauliflower rice. And I had a little bit of green pepper left over. So I threw it in there with some garlic. Anyway, back.
Take a deep breath, Kyle.
That's what That's where I run.
We're going to just take time for our break anyway. You can just relax for a minute, sir. We're going to take a break about 10 minutes, and please don't talk about the case during the break. Read, watch, or listen to any account of the trial.
So, I wouldn't be surprised if the prosecution right now is thinking of a way to saying, you know, all these emotional hysterics that you're pulling now, you know, his Mr. Rottenbaum's mom was feeling that way too. Do you know how I wouldn't surprise if he would try. Again, he can be as dirty as he wants. So this is going to be interesting, how they do this and whether he breaks up every time. Wow, they took a long break. Let me pause this and find out where we started. Okay, we're back. So who thinks he's faking this right now? Who thinks he's just doing this for sympathy and he's not scared at all? This is all a big show. If you think that, man, I'm on the opposite end. I don't think he's faking this at all. This is a young kid that his whole life's about to be over, or is over. And he was put in a situation because assholes were attacking him and trying to take his gun and targeting him because he was trying to stop the fire and protect the neighborhood, which the government and the cops should have been doing. But when they ran out and abandoned the people and good people went in there, now the government wants to be there, Johnny on the spot, and prosecute him. This is a freaking BS prosecution. Here we go.
Coming into contact with Mr. Rosenbaum.
Yes.
And
Oh, wait.
I apologize.
Oh, forgive me. You got everybody?
Oh, I guess some of the jurors weren't in.
Start.
So he thinks this is funny because he's not facing prison. This is just a normal day of me getting paid, being cool, but I'm not facing prison.
You were testifying about coming into contact with Mr. Rosenbaum,
Yes.
and you saw Mr. Rosenbaum. What happened?
Once I got to that car and I stepped forward to put that fire in the Duramax out, and Mr. Zeminski stepped towards me, I went to go run back south down Sheridan, and Mr. Rosenbaum was right there at the corner of the Duramax, starting to chase me. And that's when I realized the only place I can run with the people around me is straight towards the building of the car source lot number 3.
Okay, so he should have said, and you were running because you were fearful of the crowd, or you were running, probe him to get in the fear that he's saying.
When you saw Mr. Rosenbaum, that's when you said friendly?
When I heard burn inside, I don't know exactly where I was at in the time for that.
Did Mr. Rosenbaum say anything to you?
No, Mr. Zeminski instructed Mr. Rosenbaum to get him and kill him. That's what I heard.
And you go running, what's been referred to.
He kind of glossed over that. That is a key fact. So you actually heard him say that. No one else couldn't have been mistaken. No, I heard him say, get him and kill him. He should have repeated that 3 times somehow. I don't care how, but I think he should have repeated it. The jury has to hear that. You have to program. These attorneys are so damn busy following their freaking script and their questions that they're missing the point. If the jury doesn't get it, he goes to prison.
To the southwest corner of car source?
Yes.
And as you're running in that direction, describe being chased. What was happening?
As I'm running in that southwest direction, Mr. Rosenbaum throws, at the time, I know it's a bag now, but when he threw it at me, with the light, it looked silver and it looked like the chain when he threw it at me. And then I continue, I turn around for about a second while continuing to run, and I point my gun at Mr. Rosenbaum.
Does that stop him from chasing you?
It does not.
Okay. After you turn around and you had your hands up kind of in a low ready position,
Yes.
and you see Mr. Rosenbaum coming at you,
Yes.
and what do you do then?
After he throws the bag and he continues to run, he's gaining speed on me. A gunshot is fired from behind me.
I would have stopped him when he said bag, because he said he thought it was a chain. I would have said, now wait a minute. A few minutes ago, you said you thought you were calling it a bag, but when he threw it, you thought it was a chain. He should have corrected that and get that out there. These guys are freaking sucking at getting shit out. I just can't believe it.
Directly behind me. A gunshot is fired from behind me, directly behind me. And I take a few steps, and that's when I turn around. And as I'm turning around, Mr. Rosenbaum is, I would say, from me to where the judge is, coming at me with his arms out in front of him. I remember his hand on the barrel of my gun.
But we'll never know that because they didn't print it. But we do have an injury that the gunpowder starts after a certain point on a gun. Therefore, because there was no powder burns on this part of the hand, the hand, it's a reasonable to conclude that the hand was over the barrel, and that's why the gunpowder starts in the middle.
Why didn't you just keep running?
That's a setup question. He knows why he didn't keep running. He wants them to get this answer out.
When I was over there were about 100 people surrounding those cars, and there was no space for me to continue to run to.
Get ready. He's going to say, after you shot him, you found space and ran, didn't you? Let me play this video where you ran back around a circle. So you could have ran, but you chose not to. Get ready.
And so you turned around,
Yes.
and as you see him lunging at you, what do you do?
See, again, bad question. As you see him lunging at you, trying to grab and disarm you, as you see him lunging at you in fear of losing your weapon, he could have worded that question so much better. Dude, you guys suck.
Shoot him.
And how many times you see him lunging at you, what do you do?
I shoot him.
And how many times did you shoot?
I believe 4.
And
Now, see, I would have asked, do you believe 4 today from videos, or do you remember 4 when you did it, or did you just remember firing rounds rapidly? You could have cleaned that up, because it makes it sound like, oh, I know I fired 4. I counted my rounds. I don't think he counted his rounds. I don't think he knew he fired 4 when it happened.
after you shot him, what did you do?
The people around.
After you fired your gun to protect yourself so he couldn't disarm you when you were surrounded, what did you do next? I mean, how hard is it to freaking ask a question that way? I mean, it's just absolutely outrageous, the defense, the missed opportunities.
The people around the cars that were originally there were not there anymore.
I went from hot to cold. Shit, sorry.
They moved away, and I ran around to see if I could help Mr. Rosenbaum.
And when you got to Mr. Rosenbaum, what was happening?
Mr. McGinnis was, he took off his helmet and slammed it on the ground and took off his shirt, and I don't remember what he said. I wasn't focused on that. I was in shock, sort of.
Good.
Let me back up a second. Did you know Mr. McGinnis was even around?
I didn't.
Okay, and he's
Okay, so I don't know. I don't know if that's a great question, because when he turned around, there was 2 people chasing him, which would even increase his fear more. He may have not known he was Mr. McGinnis, but when you turned and pointed your gun at Rottenbum when he was chasing you, did you see 1 or 2 people chasing you? Because if he saw 2, it's better. If he saw 1, it's okay. Again, another missed opportunity to increase that level of fear, to justify fear of life, justify deadly force.
he says something to you, and what do you do?
I pull out my phone and I call Dominic Black.
And you call Dominic, and what do you say?
I told him I just shot somebody. I had to shoot him.
And what do you do then?
I now know it to be Kelly Zeminski, Joshua Zeminski, and I don't know the other people who were screaming, "Get his ass, get his ass, get him, get him, get him."
And
At that point, how did that make you feel? Get his emotions, his fear, his trapped. Come on, you freaking defense attorney!
based upon that, did you feel as though you were safe to stay where
Oh, okay, he did do it. Sorry. Rick, why don't you? I'm sorry, he got it.
you were at?
I thought the safest option would be to go north down Sheridan to turn myself into the law enforcement down there.
And as you head down Sheridan Road, describe what's going on.
I think he could have recapped on that and gave a better impression. So your intent was to turn yourself into the police. It wasn't to run, because we have testimony that you were running. You weren't running to hide. You were trying to get to the police because you felt in danger and you wanted help and to turn yourself in. Is that correct? Come on, dude.
As I'm running, at first I'm in the sidewalk, and Mr. Lukowski, Jason Lukowski, is in the sidewalk, and I stop to talk to Mr. Lukowski for a brief second. I remember telling him that I just shot somebody and I need help to get to the police because the crowd, there was a mob was chasing me.
Good word.
And did Mr. Lukowski offer you any help?
I don't remember.
Okay, what do you do then?
I continued to run after hearing people say, people were saying, cranium him, get him, kill him. People were screaming, and I just was trying to get to the police running down Sheridan Road.
Perfect opportunity to say, we had one officer describe the scene as a war zone. Is that what you would, did you feel? I mean, come on, dude.
And you say I'm trying to get to the police. Why were you trying to get to the police?
So I didn't do anything wrong. I defended myself.
Did you feel as though there was safety where the police were?
Yes.
And as you head down Sheridan Road, what's the next thing you remember?
The next thing I remember is Anthony Huber striking me in the head with a skateboard.
Okay. As you sit here today, do you remember talking to Gage Grosskreutz?
Yeah, sorta, a little bit. I didn't know it was Gage Grosskreutz when he came up to me, but sorta.
Okay. And when this individual runs up to you and gets how close?
I would say within a foot.
Did you shoot him?
I did not.
Did you point your gun at him?
I did not.
Why not?
I didn't see him as a threat to my safety or life.
Okay. Was he armed at that time?
Not that I noticed.
Okay. And you continue running in a northerly direction down Sheridan Road?
Correct.
And as you're running in that direction, you said the next thing you remember is Anthony Huber.
Yes.
Describe that.
Anthony Huber, what I remember is running past Anthony Huber, and as I'm running past Mr. Huber, he's holding his skateboard like a baseball bat, and he swings it down, and I block it with my arm, trying to prevent it from hitting me, but it still hits me in the neck, and as I block it, it goes flying somewhere off in the distance.
And do you stop then?
No.
What do you do next?
I keep running down Sheridan Road towards the police line.
Then what happens?
Why didn't you shoot him? Because I felt like I could get away. Because when he shot, he was on his back and he couldn't run. So why didn't you shoot the guy when you're running? He would say, because I was still trying to get to the police and I could still run. That promotes his, I wasn't wanting to kill somebody. I only did it when I had to and I was in danger. God, this defense is just killing me.
I get lightheaded. I almost pass out and I
Oh,
stop.
I forgot the question. Hang on.
What do you do next?
I keep running down Sheridan Road towards the police line.
Then what happens?
I get lightheaded. I almost pass out and I stumble and hit the ground.
Okay. Before you hit the ground, how many times were you struck?
I believe twice.
Okay. Do you remember anything about the other one?
I remember the first one being a rock. I don't remember who did it, but I remember like the bumpiness of like a concrete rock hitting me in the back of the head.
Okay. Now, after being struck with Mr. Huber's skateboard, You end up on the ground.
Yes.
You're on the ground. What's the first thing you remember?
As I'm on the ground, there are people around me. I don't recall how many, but I remember moving my rifle in their direction, and they back off besides one person.
Okay. When you noticed people by you, you said you moved your rifle in their direction.
Yes.
Did that individual keep coming?
The last person did.
Okay. The people that stopped, what did you do to them?
Nothing.
Okay. And you're saying the last person in that group continued to come at you?
Yes.
And
the person that hit you in the head first with concrete that you fell, did you shoot them? No. Okay. Keep pointing out the key points to this case that you have to get to the jury is he was not out there spraying and praying and killing and being wild and crazy. He was trapped. He was cornered. He was alone. There was a mob. They were chasing him. He was hit in the head multiple times. He was knocked to the ground. He had no option. He was trying to go to the police. You have to paint this chaotic picture of this kid who's 17 years old getting his ass beat and probably thinking he's going to die with good cause. I mean, anybody would think if those guys got that gun, they'd have beat the shit out of him. He'd have been, who's the dude, that Reggie whatever in the LA riots where they ripped him out of his truck and they were throwing sinks on his head and kicking him in the head? Reggie something, I can't remember.
And describe what happened.
The last person, I don't know his name. I don't think he was ever identified. Jumps at me he was wearing boots, I believe, and as he's running at me and jumping, as his boot is making contact with my face, I fired 2 shots at him.
Why did you shoot at him?
I thought if I were to be knocked out, or he would have stomped my face in if I didn't fire.
As a result of being kicked in the face, what happens?
Mr. Huber, immediately after I'm kicked in the face, runs up as I'm sitting up to try to get up and get to the police. I'm on my back, and Mr. Huber runs up. As I'm getting up, he strikes me in the neck with his skateboard a second time.
Then what happened?
He grabs my gun, and I can feel it pulling away from me, and I can feel the strap starting to come off my body.
And what do you do then?
I fire 1 shot.
And after you fire...
This is so clear-cut self-defense. This kid should never be on trial, should have never did a day in jail. This prosecution is the most crooked, evil, left-wing political bullshit prosecution I think I've ever freaking seen. The more I hear about this case, the more there is no freaking way this kid had any other option. And if he would have been a cop, there would be nothing. He would be getting medals, and he would be a hero, and he survived, and he saved other officer. He would be the greatest hero in the world if he worked for the government, and the government would be protecting him. But because he's a pesky citizen, they are trying to lock this kid up for life. This is freaking disgusting.
Striking, we now know Mr. Huber. What do you do?
I lower my weapon, and I see Mr. Grosskreutz with his hands up, and as I'm lowering my weapon, I look down, and then Mr. Grosskreutz, he lunges at me with his pistol pointed directly at my head.
Now, you heard Mr. Grosskreuz's testimony about re-racking?
Yes.
Did you re-rack your weapon?
I did not.
Could I have the exhibit, please? Make sure to see if you would.
I hope he says, if your gun was loaded and you racked your gun, would it eject a bullet if there was a bullet already in there? The answer would be yes. And to your knowledge, did they find any unfired ammunition from your gun on the ground? That makes it clear, and it corroborates that he didn't. Right now, you just have he racked. Now, maybe he's going to clean it up what's coming, but this is what's running through my head if I'm trying to sit here. Dude, you got to make this clear for the jury. Don't let this go. Oh my God, the gun again? Are you kidding me? We don't want this gun put in front of the jury as much as we can. Well, the prosecution does, the DA does. No one else does. Nobody else cares. Now, remember, this is the first, this kid probably doesn't want to look at a gun or see a gun. He is probably thinking that damn gun, if I hadn't had it, I wouldn't be in this mess. I may be dead, but I wouldn't be in this mess. And, this gun is going to be very emotional, I think, if he has to touch it or they ask him to demonstrate anything. That will really kind of push him to an emotional state, I think, of before a breakdown. Just seeing it, I can see the fear in his face.
Showing you what's been previously marked, Exhibit 28. Do you recognize this?
I do.
Now, when somebody would, as Mr. Grosswood said, re-rack, is that this?
Yes.
Do you call it re-racking?
I call it charging, putting a live round into the chamber.
And to recharge, you have to pull this all the way back?
Yes.
Say that's about 4 inches? No, I'm asking you if you agree with that approximation. Mr. Rittenhouse, how far do you think that is?
3-4 inches.
Nobody's got a freaking tape measure in this courtroom. I mean, I just can't freaking believe it. No tape. We've been estimating freaking distance and shit, inches and feet, and nobody's got a freaking tape measure. And nobody thought to bring one.
If the weapon is loaded and you re-rack, what happens?
If there's already a round in the chamber, when you re-rack the rifle, a live round would come out, chambering a new round into the chamber.
Now, we got to the point where Mr. Grosswitz is standing in front of you, has his hands up.
Correct.
So see, all that thing about the racking and showing and the inches, he didn't close it. He left it hanging. And you're not aware they found any live rounds at the scene from your gun. Is that correct? Correct. I mean, come on, dude.
And are you aware that he's armed?
At that point, I do see a pistol in his hand.
Is that the same or different from your first encounter with Mr. Grosswitz?
That is different.
And he is standing, you said? How close to you?
What I remember is our feet were touching, what it seemed like.
Okay. And you...
Easily, again, another follow-up. So he was easily within grabbing or touching distance to where he could grab you or your gun very easily. Come on, dude.
do what?
My rifle is down, his hands are up, his pistol is in his hand, and then Mr. Grosskreutz looks at me, and that's when Mr. Grosskreutz brings his arm down like this. Like, his arm is like that with me on the ground, and his pistol is pointed at me, and that's when I shoot him.
How many times did you shoot him?
Once.
Why didn't you shoot him a lot of times? Because when I shot him once, he ran off. Come on, dude! Freaking follow up your damn questions. This defense attorney's pissing me off.
And after you shoot Mr. Grosskreutz, do you know where you shot him?
No.
What happens after you shoot him?
He's no longer a threat to me. There's only one person in front of me, and his hands are up. I briefly point my rifle at him, and I get onto one knee, getting up, and he backs up with his hands up, and I don't shoot him.
Did you notice anybody to your sides?
To my left, there was a gentleman with a pipe, and to my right, I believe it was a fence post. I don't know what it
This guy's testifying better than most cops I know.
was, but it was a large object.
Once you're to your feet, what do you do?
I start walking towards the police line.
Why were you walking? Hopefully you were still dizzy. You were kind of in shock. You were losing your breath. You you were in a daze. All you knew is I needed to get to the police or I'm going to be dead. Didn't they brief this witness or ask questions? Come on, dude.
To turn myself into the police.
Describe, where's the police line? Is it still in the same place?
It moved up a little bit. I was down in the road about approximately right here. I'd say over.
Another question that the prosecutor may come up with, which would be really damaging because there's not really a good answer, and prosecutors love those type of questions. As you sit here today, Mr. Rittenhouse, if you had to do everything over again, would you do it? And if he says yes, then he's a killer. If he says no, why would you change? Why did you do it that way? Why? So, I mean, it's just, I wouldn't be surprised if that question was coming.
Over here somewhere in this area. I don't remember exactly, but the police line was right here. I could see the flashing lights as I was trying to get to the police before.
Okay, and as you go towards the police line, describe what happens.
I run and walk. I put my hands up, and as I'm walking towards the police, I can't really hear anything.
That's called auditory exclusion. They ought to explain why he can't hear. They may think it's because he just fired his gun, but he's going to have ringing in his ears, but he's in shock. His heart rate is up. He's going through fight or flight. That's why they should have had a use of force expert. I can't believe they didn't, somebody come in to set the stage for this guy's state of mind.
My vision is very narrow. I can only see
Tunnel
directly
vision
in front of me. I see the flashing lights. I remember I occasionally tried to move my rifle behind me to put it behind me so the police didn't see me as a threat when I tried to turn myself in. I continue to walk, and then I walk towards the window of the sedan, the police cruiser sedan. I don't know what they're called. And I tell the officer, I just shot somebody. And the officer says, get the fuck back or you're going to get pepper sprayed. Go home, go home, go.
Now, who thinks the police said that? Come on, raise your hand. Everybody knows that's exactly what the cop said, even though he didn't testify that way. I guarantee you if they had body cams and it was recorded, that's what he said.
Go home.
And where do you go after you step back from the police car?
I go to car source number 2.
Okay, and now there wasn't a line there. They weren't stopping people from going in a northerly direction.
No, they weren't.
And you go to car source, what we refer to as car source number 2, and who do you see?
I get there and I see, I think the first person I see is Joanne Fiedler. I don't remember exactly, but I believe that's who's outside the door. They let me inside. The door was locked, so somebody had to get the key to unlock it. And then we go inside, and I'm in shock. I don't really remember what was happening in there. I was freaking out. I was just attacked. My head was spinning.
Are you familiar with the term fight or flight? Could you explain that? Did you have auditory exclusion? Did you have tunnel vision? Was your heart rate up? Did you feel faint? Did you lose feelings in your fingers and toes because they were tingling from blood loss? Man, this defense attorney's killing me.
Did you go and turn yourself into the Kenosha Police Department?
I did not.
Why not?
The Kenosha Police Department was barricaded off with a fence, and I don't think they were accepting anybody to come to the police department at that time.
What did you do then?
I went to the nearest police department that I knew of, which was Antioch Police Department in Illinois by my house.
Who took you there?
My mother.
Okay. How did you get to Antioch from downtown Kenosha?
Dominic Black drove me.
Okay. And then Dominic Black drives you where?
He drives me to my house in Antioch, Illinois, where I meet with my mother and sisters, and I tell them what happened. I sort of tell them what happened. I was still in shock. My head was still spinning, and then we go to the Antioch Police Department where I turned myself in.
Who drove her to the Antioch?
Why didn't you go to the hospital for injuries? Man, that would have, if anybody had their head around it, look, you were just hitting the head multiple times. You're not feeling good. You're not in the right frame of mind to be given a statement. Let's get you to the hospital. Let's get you under some medical care and make sure you're okay. And we'll let the police know where you're at, and we'll do that. That would have been a lot better advice than taking him to the police station right after this event where he hasn't had a chance to think. He's cloudy. His mind's messed up. You know, hindsight's 20/20, but whatever.
Police department.
My mother.
And did anybody else go there with you?
Not at first.
Okay. And you get to the Antioch Police Department approximately what time?
I would say about an hour after the shooting.
Okay. And when you get there, are they looking for you?
No.
Did you have to explain to somebody?
I had to tell them that I was just involved in a shooting in Kenosha and I needed Kenosha detectives.
Okay. Did they take you into custody immediately?
No.
What did they do?
They had me sit in the lobby of the police department.
Were you handcuffed to a chair?
I was not.
Did you stay there?
For about... I couldn't give you the exact time, but until Detective Howard and Detective Antaranium showed up.
Did they search you? Did they read you your rights? Because all those things indicate they think you're a criminal.
Okay. And were you having any physical discomfort as you waited there?
I was vomiting and having panic attacks, and my head was spinning, and I couldn't think clearly at that point.
And nobody asked you if you needed medical attention. Are you freaking kidding me? What the hell? He's got a concussion. He's vomiting. That's very classic with a concussion. Oh.
I have nothing further.
Whoa, he's ending it right there. Man, 36 minutes. Whew, man, I feel sorry for this kid. I wish I was next to him, man, because I think this kid's in for a hurting, but we'll see.
Tim?
I don't think he got near as much as he should have about his state of mind, the fear, the chaotic, the dangers, the war zone mentality, the attacking, how he didn't shoot people that hit him. And I think he missed a bunch of opportunities. But overall, I think his testimony helped him right now. If it stopped now, I'd say, good job calling him. The problem is, it's just freaking starting. You piece of shit, turncoat, redcoat, little asshole. I really dislike this guy in case you can't tell. Arrogant ass.
Good morning, Mr. Rittenhouse.
Good morning.
Everybody that you shot at that night you intended to kill.
Oh man, he didn't take long for that. Holy shit. Hopefully they briefed him. Don't ever say you wanted to kill anybody. You shot to stop the threat and to prevent yourself from being further harmed or damaged or having your life taken away. That is the answer no matter what he says. Hopefully they debrief this kid good. Because if he says yes at any point that he meant to kill, they're going to get murdered.
Correct?
I didn't intend to kill them. I intended to stop the people who were attacking me.
By killing them.
I did.
Ask and answer. He already asked that he didn't intend to kill them. Don't let this fucking defense team's pissing me off. He just said he didn't try to kill him, and you just re-asked the question. And they're letting him get away with it.
What I had to do to stop the person who was attacking me.
By killing them.
Objection! Asked and answered!
Them passed away, but I stopped the threat from attacking me.
By using deadly force.
I used deadly force.
That you knew was going to kill
Slow down.
I didn't know if it was going to kill them, but I used deadly force to stop the threat that was attacking me.
You intentionally used deadly force against Joseph Rosenbaum, correct?
Yes.
You intentionally used deadly force against the man who came and tried to kick you in the face,
Yes.
correct? You intentionally used deadly force against Anthony Huber, correct?
Yes.
Notice the intentional part. We're getting elements of the crime. In order to do, I haven't read the statute on what they charge him with, but I'm sure in there that the subject or actor, however they're explaining, intended to do bodily harm or death or whatever. So he's checking a box for intentionally right now. He admitted on stand he intentionally. I'm not sure if a better way would have been. It wasn't like it was a conscious effort. I thought I was going to die and I was reacting. See, there's ways to work around it if you've been around a while, but this is a young kid, which is why this is so dangerous to put him on a stand.
You intentionally used deadly force against Gage Grosskreutz.
Asked and answered.
Correct?
Yes.
With regard to Joseph Rosenbaum, you fired 4 shots at him, correct?
Yes.
You intended to kill him, correct?
I didn't intend to kill him. I intended to stop the person who was attacking me and trying to steal my gun.
Okay, so that's good. He's repeating that, but he's not getting any help from his defense. Stop this quick action to where the prosecutor can sit there and ask the same freaking question 15 different ways till he gets the answer. This is a young kid. He's not going to be able to defend himself that well.
Since August...
Notice the arrogant stance, the calm, the caring prosecutor that's looking out for you pesky citizens' best interests by putting this guy away. What a freaking weasel.
25th, 2020, this is the first time that you have told your story.
Object to this.
Sustained.
Yeah, he told it to me, his attorney. How is that relevant, whether it's the first time? He's just trying to say, oh, now you get to make it up because you're not a dumbass and you didn't give 15 statements to the FBI, to the ATF, and to us, and now we can't use those statements against you. It sounds like he did a smart thing, and if this is the first time they got a statement, he did do the smart thing.
Since August 25th, 2020, you've had the benefit of watching countless videos of your actions that night, correct?
I've seen certain videos, not all of them. I've seen the majority of them actually here during the trial.
You've also had the opportunity to read articles. People have written interviews, things like that, about what happened that night, correct?
I do my best to avoid what people write on the internet. A majority of it's not true.
You have also sat here through 8 days of trial, correct?
Yes.
And you've had the opportunity to watch all of the videos that have been played in this trial?
Yes.
Sir, if you could please let me finish my...
See, he didn't have to say that. He's doing this to enforce his higher priority, his in charge, his authority over him. He does not have to say what he's doing now. He stopped. He could have moved on. The only reason he's doing this, I guarantee you, take my freaking word for it, he's trying to scold him and say, you need to listen to me. I'm in charge, to get that authoritative position. So now when he questions him, he's kind of intimidated him. This is a ploy and it's bullshit, but he knows what he's doing. I'll give him that.
My question before answering, and I will do my best to let you finish your answer before I go on to the next question. Fair?
Yes.
You have also had the opportunity to listen to the testimony of all 30-some witnesses that have testified in this trial so far, correct?
Yes.
Now, this wouldn't be a good, it would get overruled, but an objection saying, Your Honor, he sat here the whole trial, and so did the detectives that testified. Why is that relevant that he's seen all this? The detectives didn't get to ask these questions when they watched all the witnesses and they testified. Objection overruled. You know what? He got it out. You've got to educate that freaking jury.
And after all of that, now you are telling us your side of the story, correct?
Correct.
I'm going to ask you folks to go in the library for just a second.
Oh, good. Good. That means the judge is going to get in his ass. Good.
Please don't talk about the case.
Good for you, Judge. He's asking an answer. Hopefully the judge will look at him, because the fucking defense attorneys are over there too busy smiling and laughing and not paying attention that their client is getting asked the same damn question 14 times and you're letting him do it. That's bullshit. And I think what the judge is going to tell him is you're trying to impeach him with implication, and you have no fact, and you need to knock it off. I hope that's what he does.
Commenting on my client's right to remain silent.
You need to.
Oh, good. He is commenting on his client's right to remain silent. He's trying to make it look like he's hiding when, in fact, he has the right to the Fifth Amendment until he decides to take the stand. Good objection. Good for you. Maybe they aren't freaking sleeping.
Account for this.
Your Honor, I don't want a jury here. He's commenting on my client's right to remain silent.
No, Your Honor. I am making the point that after hearing everything in the case, now he's tailoring his story to what has already been introduced.
Much like your detectives did when they heard all the story, right? Is that what you're saying?
The problem is, this is a grave constitutional violation for you to talk about the defendant's silence. And that is, and you're right on the borderline.
Good. Mistrial his ass right now. That would be perfect. If you ask him again, I'm going to cause a mistrial. Perfect.
And you may be over, but it better stop.
Understood.
This is, I can't think of the case, the initial case on it, but it's.
What do you expect from a dirty, filthy DA that's trying to get people to change their statement and intimidating them? I told you, this guy is so dirty, he doesn't care and he will do anything. That's why it's so dangerous to get a young kid in front of him like this. I like to slap that little freaking fairy top right there, whatever the hell he calls that haircut. Freaking wannabe Tinkerbell shit. Anyway, I digress. Let's get back to this.
This is not permitted. All right. Ask the jury to come in, please.
And see, to me, I think the jury should have heard that. Once again, the jury is kept in the dark on 90% of the shit, and then the 10% they hear when they make a bad ruling, everybody goes, man, that jury's dumb. Those jurors are stupid. This is why you get bad rulings. If the jury would have heard this, they would see what an unethical piece of shit this DA is, and it would make them make the more correct choice.
You
I sustain the objection.
So anybody on the jury that knows what sustain the objection means, it means you fucked up and you lost.
You were armed with an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle that evening, correct?
Yes.
You had it loaded with 30 rounds of full metal jacket ammunition, correct?
Yes.
That weapon with 30 rounds is capable of killing at least 30 people, correct?
Objection, Your Honor. He doesn't know how many rounds it takes to kill somebody. He shot one guy in the arm and he didn't die. So how can he say that it's capable of killing? He's making conclusions for the witness. That's bullshit. Come on, defense.
Yes.
You had arranged to have Dominic Black purchase that weapon for you in Ladysmith, Wisconsin in early May of 2020. Is that correct?
We were up north shooting and not shooting. We were up north going camping, and Dominic Black brought his rifle, and we were talking. I was like, "Hey, what if we get a rifle for me? I'll give you the money. You can purchase it. It's yours until I'm 18." So,
Oh, that's a good statement. That totally kills the straw purchase. It's yours until I'm 18. Perfect. No crime here.
bought the rifle for Dominic, and I can use it. But once I'm 18, we can do a private sale, and we can have it turned over to my name once I turned 18.
Because you knew, as a 17-year-old, you could not have that gun, correct?
I knew I could not buy that gun.
You knew you could not possess that gun also, correct?
No.
You weren't aware that under Wisconsin law...
I'm going to instruct the jury later about the law. So, and that he wouldn't, what he thinks on the subject is not dispositive anyway. So,
Boy, that DA is an arrogant ass. Man, I just can't believe the disdain that this guy's attitude is.
it was unlawful for him to purchase the gun.
It wasn't just unlawful for you to purchase it, it was unlawful for you to bring it home, correct?
In Illinois,
I don't know the law. Don't testify to the law. Your Honor, he's asking him to testify for the law. He's not an expert in the law.
I wasn't able to bring it home because I didn't have a FOID card, a firearm owner identification card. In Illinois.
You just interrupted him. You know what? You need to wait until I finish my answer before you interrupt, please. Freaking piece of shit. Why ain't the damn defense objecting to that shit?
Illinois, that you couldn't get that until you turned 18, correct?
No, you can get a FOID card at 16 in Illinois.
Perfect! Watch the prosecution now go, in Wisconsin, but you, watch this.
But you didn't have one.
I did not.
And even after this gun was purchased for you in May, you never got one after that either, did you?
Actually, I applied for a FOID card in May of 2020, but due to the charges, and there was a backlog in Illinois for the FOID card, but after you filed the charges against me, it was denied because of the charges here in this state.
Man, he's doing pretty good, man. This freaking attorney ain't making a whole bunch of points other than being a dick. He's making a lot of points in that.
Found out about that after you were criminally charged in this case?
I found out about this in November of 2020. A letter was sent to my old residence.
So you knew that without that FOID card, the gun could not go back to your residence in Illinois, correct?
Correct.
And you agreed that the gun would be kept at Dominic Black's stepfather's house here in Kenosha, correct?
Because he had a safe, yes.
And you agreed that you wouldn't have access to that gun, correct?
We agreed that the only time I would use the gun is when I was with him and we would go to like the Bristol shooting range or up north to his land.
But the only time prior to the night of August 25th, 2020, that you ever used that gun was up in Ladysmith, correct?
Correct.
So you didn't go to the Bristol shooting range ever
I
with
did.
that gun?
Not with that rifle, but I did.
Pay attention to my question, please. You did.
Again, he wants to counsel him. Every time he doesn't get his point, he wants to make it look like the witness did something wrong. It's you that's not paying attention. Pay attention. The defense could have objected. Your Honor, he's telling him to pay attention. He answered the question. If he needs to be clearer with his question, he needs to be clear. He doesn't have to tell my client to pay attention. My client answered the question. Man, he needs to be shoving it up this DA's ass every chance he gets to shut down his game. He's getting to play this Mr. I'm all calm and I'm in charge and I'm polite and I've got this young kid and I'm gonna impress the jury. Oh.
Didn't ever go to the Bristol shooting range with that gun, correct?
Correct.
And you picked out that gun because Dominic had one, correct?
Yeah.
You could have, if you wanted to, chosen from any number of guns that were for sale, fair enough?
That were at that store. There weren't many, but yes.
I'm sure the store in Ladysmith isn't the only store that sells guns, correct?
Objection! Your Honor, why are we talking about what kind of guns a store has? How is that relevant?
Can I ask questions?
That was a question.
No, it was a statement.
The judge slammed his ass. You little piece of shit. See how he lied? See how cool he was? If the judge wouldn't have said that, he'd have got away. That was a question. No, it was a statement. Let's listen to that again. Was it a statement?
Sure, the store in Ladysmith isn't the only store that sells guns.
Was that a question? Anybody else think that's a question?
Correct?
You can ask questions.
That was a question.
No, it was a statement.
Well, that was the judge. They didn't even, the freaking sleeping defense team didn't even object. That was the judge doing it. Piece of shit, DA. What a weasel.
Isn't it correct, Mr. Rittenhouse, that there are other places to purchase guns besides that one store in Ladysmith, Wisconsin?
I believe so, but that's where we're at, so that's where we got the gun.
And you...
Good answer. Don't respond. Don't. I mean, I would have loved to have been a smartass to him. As you so pointed out earlier, Mr. DA, I'm only testifying at the gun store I was at, not places I didn't go. Your Honor, I asked the witness to be more responsive. Been there, done that.
You, if you wanted to, could have given Dominic Black money to purchase a gun at other locations. Fair?
Didn't cross my mind, but now that you say it, yeah.
Why did you pick or want Dominic Black to buy for you an AR-15 as opposed to a pistol or a shotgun or some other type?
Your Honor, he's already testified. That was the gun he picked out, and that was the gun they had. I'm not sure what new information we're seeking here. Come on, defense.
A rifle.
I cannot legally possess or carry a pistol because I'm not 18 in Wisconsin. I believe it's 18 in Wisconsin for a pistol. But with the rifle, I knew I could possess that rifle. I knew I couldn't buy it, but I knew I could like take it to like the shooting range or possess it. And with shotguns, they didn't have any shotguns in stock. That was my original plan, to get a shotgun for trap shooting, but there weren't any at that Lady Smith store, and I didn't want to go to Walmart and buy one.
So your understanding at that time was that Wisconsin law prohibited you as a 17-year-old from possessing a pistol, but you could have an AR-15?
Yes.
What was that understanding based on?
There's plenty of understanding on that. A pistol is smaller, it's more concealable, and it has higher restrictions. There's plenty of states you have to be 21 to own a pistol and 18 to own a rifle. The laws are that way because when you're 18, you're allowed to go hunting, and you can hunt with a long gun. So the laws for long guns are different than pistols. You should know that, Mr. DA.
The understanding was based on when we would go up north, it was me, Dominic, and my sister, and we were allowed to carry the rifles around, and the officers over there said it was fine.
I'm going to move to strike as hearsay as to what officers would have told
You
me.
asked the question on what
I was going to say he opened the door, but the judge is like, you asked the question, take the answer, smart boy. Oh, man, I hope... it looks like the judge is kind of like knows that this DA is pushing the freaking limits and the defense team is sleeping, so the judge is stepping up. Good for him. And I would say that for anybody. I don't even care if a guy's guilty. The rules are, you piece of shit DAs who are, and I've said it 1,000 times, much more crooked than any cop out there. You guys get to make the rules. You get to pick who you charge. You get to let your friends go and not charge them. You get to cut deals with felons. You get to cut deals with anybody you like that does something. You guys are the dirtiest people in the government system, and yet you don't think the rules apply to you. Freaking,
the source of his knowledge was.
So he's been chastised like 3 times already. This is great. I love it.
It's not admissible, and none of this is, frankly, and that's why I interrupted before. What the defendant believes the law to be, what the district attorney believes the law to be, what the defense believes the law to be, are irrelevant. I will tell you...
Hey, you two knuckleheads, he's doing your job for you, freaking idiots.
When I instruct you what the law of Wisconsin is pertaining to the possession of a firearm by a person under 18, and that'll be the source of your knowledge. I'm allowing the testimony right now because it bears on... there's an old maxim under the law, ignorantia juris non excusat. Ignorance of the law is not an excuse.
Remember that when the judges and attorneys all disagree and the Supreme Court judges can't agree and they're looking through books and books to find this section and that, remember, ignorance is no excuse. Although they can be ignorant and look up shit all day long and not know the law, even though they're in the profession, but you pesky citizens should know it all.
Ignorance of the criminal law is not an excuse. If you commit a criminal act, whether you knew it was criminal or not, you're responsible for your conduct, and because you're responsible to know the law. It's not relevant, except in this case, there are specific issues about his awareness and knowledge about certain conduct that is relevant on some issues. So it's quite complicated. Hopefully it'll sort out when I instruct you at the end. But that's why I'm allowing the questions and the answers, but do not be confused about what anything that these people say is not necessary.
It's good that he said these people, and because the defense is going to be crying that he was labeled out, he was singled out, the judge was biased to me, blah, 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 blah. When he loses, if he appeals, well, I don't think he has to appeal. Well, I don't even know. If he gets acquitted, I don't even know if they can appeal. Hell, that's a good question. Somebody give me an answer to that. If the prosecution loses and the defendant gets an acquittal, can the prosecution appeal on misconduct? I think they can only make a complaint about him. I don't think they can overturn the acquittal, but I could be wrong.
Necessarily accurate as to the state of Wisconsin law. Any question about that? Okay, thanks. Go ahead.
Okay, I got to start a new video. We're at an hour. All right, we'll be right back.